Hey everyone, in this video we're going to be talking about LCDs, which is basically just a literal physical display that you can wire to your Arduino to print things out, alright? So before we get started, let's just talk a little bit about the wiring, alright? So this is what the LCD looks like in Tinkercad. If you have a physical one, it'll look pretty similar. There are a whole bunch of pins that we're going to have to work with. I'm not going to be using all of them, but there are a whole bunch that we're going to be working with, alright? And the idea, right? Like the whole point of this LCD, right, is to be able to just take some text and put it onto a screen. All right, that's the main idea. You're not going to get any graphics or anything like that. It's going to look really similar to those. I don't know if you've seen those supermarket screens where they like display the price of the items at the cashier or at the cash register. It's very similar to that kind of screen. All right. So let's talk about the pins first, and then we'll sort of go from there. All right. So we have a ground 5 volts, and then for the LED side of things, right? Because there are LEDs in this. We have 5 volts and ground. All right. So we also have another ground here, and then we have these 2 pins that are used to tell the display to write data. Meaning you're basically saying, all right, turn the display on and put the data that I'm sending. In this case, it's just a string of text, right? And then we have 4 pins that are actually used to send data to the display, meaning like if I give the Arduino text, these 4 pins are what are used to get that text from the Arduino. All right. So coding this, because we're using a library, it's pretty straightforward. The wiring is the only tricky part. All right. So let's go to Tinkercad and let's make a new circuit. Okay. Let's grab an Arduino. Let's grab a breadboard, and let's grab an LCD. Which one do I want to use? Let's use this one. Actually, no, I don't want to use that one. That one's a little bit more complicated. Okay, yeah, there we go. Yeah, you can just put it on the breadboard like this. That should be fine. Okay, so just put it on your breadboard, and that's pretty much it. So the first thing you're going to want to do is extend 5 volts and ground. So let's just do it from here because we're going to use a lot of pins at the top. So just to be less cluttered, let's just grab it from here. Okay. And then I'm just going to go all the way around. And, okay. 5 volts. Cool. Let's make this red. And then ground. Okay. All right. So 5 volts ground extended. Lovely. Okay. Now we can kind of just do some boilerplate stuff. Ground to ground. This one is going to use a resistor actually. Remember, it's an LED, right? So resistor, and you guessed it, we're going to use 220. That's sort of our standard one that we kind of use for LEDs. Yep, 220 ohms. Okay, that's that. This is going to go to 5 volts. All right. And this is going to be red. Okay, and then VCC, of course, that's going to go to 5 volts as well. And then this read-write pin, that's going to go to ground. This is basically the pin that's like, all right, do you want to actually read stuff or do you want to write stuff? In this case, you're going to write stuff, so we're going to send a negative signal. That's the whole idea behind that pin. Okay. And then this pin is also going to be ground. And yeah, that's it for the positive negative connections. All right. So let's do it with this register select pin. Now, if you've taken more of like a college level, computer organization course, you might have some familiarity with some of this, especially dealing with assembly programming and registers and when they're active to output things to a display. But if you're not familiar with that at all, totally fine. You can just follow along for the wiring. All right. So for this one, we're going to wire this guy to pin 12, all right? Okay, let's just make all these green, yeah. All right, and then for the enable pin, right, this guy right here, we are going to wire that to pin 11, all right? Okay. Now we need to deal with DB4 through 7. All right, so for DB4 through 7, we're going to go 5, and then 4, and then 3, then 2. All right, so for DB4, we're going to start by wiring it to pin 5. And then 4. Okay, then 3. And then 2. Okay, so that's pretty much it for that. And that's pretty much it for the wiring. So, it's a lot of different pins, and unfortunately for this video, I'm going to have to abstract a lot of what we're doing because this can get really complicated really quickly, and you're going to need it involves a lot of prerequisite knowledge that would take way too long to cover in this video. So for this, and again, for the sake of implementation, you can follow this. If you are interested in, sort of the nitty-gritty of what's going on, feel free to look out for future courses. We'll talk about that. All right. So let's talk about writing code. All right. So we're first going to switch to text, obviously, and then get rid of the pre-generated code like we always do. Right. And then we're going to use a library, and we're going to use a liquid crystal. All right. Because that's what LCD stands for. If you don't know, LCD stands for liquid crystal display. All right. And then now you're just going to want to make the liquid crystal object, kind of like we did for servo. So it's going to be liquid crystal, and then whatever you want to call it. And then you need to pass in parentheses and semicolon. Now in the parentheses are where all our pins go. So it's going to be 12, and then 11, and then 5, 4, 3, 2, right? 12, 11, 5, 4, 3, 2. All right. And then in setup, you're going to do display.begin, and then it's going to be 16 by 2, right? Because this is a 16 pixel wide by 2 pixel, but 16 pixel wide by 2 pixel long display, all right? It's a 16 by 2. Okay, now you're going to set the cursor. Now the cursor, right? I'll explain in a second, but this is basically telling telling the display where you want the text to start printing from, all right? And then you can add text, all right? So it's going to be display.print, and then let's just type in Arduino. All right, so if I ran this, look at that, we got Arduino. Now if I started the cursor at, say, I don't know, 3, 0, let's see what happens. You see how the text is starting to start at 0, 1, 2, 3, 0, it's 0 index, so 3, 0 is where the text starts from. Now I could keep changing this, right? I can make this like 6, 0 if I wanted to. Now it's more towards the right half of the display, right? And then I can change this to, I can make this 6, 1 if I wanted to, and it'll go into the second sort of row, if you will, right? So kind of think of this as like these are the columns, and then we have 2 rows. So you have 16 columns and 2 rows, and you access everything in column first. So you specify the column you want the thing to start on, and then which row, all right? So that's what 6, 1 means. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then 0, 1, all right? So go ahead and play around with, setting the cursor, printing stuff out. But yeah, that pretty much wraps up this video. Thanks so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one.